Hello, my name's Olurotimi Osha. Today I'm continuing with my discussion on David Rush, the con artist who bluffed his way through the CIA with a fabricated resume. I'm going to be discussing that resume today. I'll be itemizing um, what's on the resume today. Of course, this is, you know, it's sensational, it's astonishing, and it's historic. I'm a historian. I like to talk about history. According to Tim Winner, who is a Pulitzer Prize winning author, if these allegations against David Rush are proven, it would be the most significant financial crime measured in dollars in the history of the CIA. Uh, I have pulled up the affidavit of criminal complaint against him, which was filed by FBI Special Agent Matthew Johnson in the U.S. District Court for Eastern District of Virginia in the Alexandria Courthouse. So I want to keep this video short, so I'm just going to get straight to it. This is me just detailing what's on the resume of David Rush, right? Just a work of fiction. Now, he joined the U.S. Navy in 1997, and of course, the Naval Criminal Investigative Service were able to retrieve his data from what's called DPRIS. That's Defense Personnel Records Information Retrieval Service. So its acronym is DPRIS, and it says that David Rush joined the Navy. He enlisted in the Navy in 1997. He's supposed to be about 51 years old right now, and which would mean in 1997 he was probably about 22 years old, roughly 22 years old back then, or 21, 22, thereabouts. So he now so that was 1997. Now, in 2004, in order to become an ensign, right, an ensign is a commissioned rank in the U.S. Navy. In order to become an ensign, he provided a transcript of having graduated from Clemson University, and it's indicating that he had a bachelor's degree in mathematics and information systems, right? And so he was made. This was in 2004. That was when he provided this transcript. It said he graduated, however, from Clemson in 2000. So the red flag should have been up then, right? Because this was in 2000, and this was in 2004. He didn't provide this transcript earlier when when he graduated in ostensibly graduated in 2000 from Clemson. He never provided it, and he'd been in the Navy since 1997. But in 2004, when he provided the transcript, it said that he had a bachelor's in mathematics, Bachelor of Science in Mathematics and Information Systems from Clemson University, and that he had a master's in computer technology from Rensselaer Polytechnic, right? From Rensselaer Polytechnic. Now, he from Rensselaer Polytechnic. Now, later on in so he provided these transcripts so he could be promoted to an ensign. That's like a lieutenant. Eventually, he would be discharged from the Navy, honorably discharged from the Navy in February 2015. He left as a lieutenant, right? Ensign O-3, right? That was in 2015. Of course, there's an issue that even though he was discharged, he was still collecting he was still collecting military leave after he joined the CIA. So he eventually joined the CIA in 2009. Prior to his joining, he had applied to the CIA twice in 2006, right? And he failed. First in March 2006, and then in November 2006, he failed to get in. Eventually, on his third attempt in 2009, he got in. What is interesting is, and what should have been another red flag, is that all three applications had discrepancies in his credentials, in his qualifications, in his educational background. So in 2006, his first attempt in March, his resume said he had a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics and Information Systems from Clemson University, and he had a Master of Science in Computer Technology from Rensselaer Polytechnic, and he claimed to have also obtained a master's in computer technology from Naval Postgraduate School, right? It should have been a red flag because he got a master's in the same major, right? Same specialization, same field, Master of Computer Technology from two different universities. Why, right? In any way, he didn't get in. Then his second attempt at the CIA in November 2006, he claimed to have again, Bachelor of Science in Mathematics and Information Systems. And this time, he, let's see. This time, though, he claimed. I have the affidavit right here, so I can see directly. This time, in November 2006, he claimed that he had a Master of Science in Electrical Engineering in 2004. So he was no longer claiming that he had a Master of Science in computer technology. Computer technology is different from electrical engineering. They're two different things. So now he claimed his Master of Science was in electrical engineering, right? And he omitted his purported master's from Naval Postgraduate School. He didn't get in then. Then his third attempt, he claimed he had just a bachelor's in mathematics, right? Bachelor of Science in Mathematics from Clemson University. And he claimed to have a Master of Science in Electrical Engineering from Rensselaer, which he claimed to obtain in 2004. And he claimed an aircraft test and evaluation certification from the United States Naval Test Pilot School, right? This was a successful application. Then after you get the offer, right, a tentative offer, then you go through your clearance process, right? Your background check for your clearance. So you obtained a top secret TSSCI. This was what he provided on his form SF-86. That's what they used to run your investigation, your background investigation, right? So dated November 20, 2009, for his TSSCI clearance in the CIA, he stated that he had a BS in Mathematics from Clemson University in 2000 and a Master of Science in Electrical Engineering from Rensselaer Polytechnic, right, in 2004. In his application, then he got in 2009 into the CIA. So he spent some time, about 9 years. Then in 2018, right, he applied to become a member of the Senior Executive Service. Again, the Senior Executive Service, those are the highest people. That's the highest cadre in the United States government, in the Federal Civil Service. They are just below presidential appointees, the highest presidential appointees. In fact, some 10% of the members of the Senior Executive Service are reserved for presidential appointees. So 10% of the Senior Executive Service actually, they're non-career civil servants or they're presidential appointees. So they're the highest cadre of the United States government, in the executive, right, the federal executive, they are mapped to being equivalent to generals, right? Although they're civilians, but their authority is mapped as equivalent to, like being a flag officer, a general in the army, so think of them that way. They're the highest people there. Sometimes the SCS can report directly to the president, so they're the executives, the highest executives of the federal civil service. So he was applying. It's a very rigorous process. They have a panel, that reviews, a panel of senior executives, right? And they review the person's background, and they score the person, they rate them, and they accept them if they're senior executives or not. So he claimed in this application on October 25, 2018, to be a graduate of the United States Air Force Test Pilot School, and that he was the current director of test for a 145-person, 18-aircraft Joint Army/Navy Weapons Test Organization, despite the fact that the military records showed that he had actually been discharged from the Navy in 2015. So I guess that's a position that someone that's a service member who's an incumbent, who's a serving member of the military, right, not a civilian, can hold. He was now in the CIA. He'd left the military. Then in the same application, he claimed that he had an 11-year tenure as a thesis dissertation advisor at the Air Force Institute of Technology, right? Of course, all of these were fabrications. By the way, in court, the prosecutors noted that at some point he also claimed to be a doctor, right? I don't know if they meant a medical doctor or somebody who had a PhD, but here he's claiming that he was an 11-year tenure. He had an 11-year tenure as a thesis dissertation advisor. So if you're an advisor for a dissertation, you have a PhD. It's PhD holders, doctoral degree holders who review the dissertation and thesis of other PhD candidates, right? You can't have a master's degree and review other people's PhD thesis. So he claimed all these falsehoods, and so in any event, upon verification, the CIA, they decided to check him out. March 27, 2026, the assistant registrar Clemson stated via letter that based on the name, social security number, and date of birth provided, Clemson University's records and registration staff were unable to verify that David John Rush attended the institution, right? They had provided his name, social security number, and date of birth. So they were just doing this investigation March 27, 2026. Of course, the investigators should have been doing these things throughout his background check, right? Throughout his clearance processes, right? Then again, on April, regarding his degrees from Rensselaer Polytechnic, right? In a letter dated April 3, 2026, an associate registrar at RPI stated the student named below with date of birth was not found in our system as attending Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, right? So again, item 18 on the affidavit says a review of Rush's military personnel file does not indicate that Rush was ever a pilot for the Navy, nor does it indicate that he underwent any evaluations as a pilot. Instead, Rush's personnel file indicates that he had other responsibilities such as information systems technician. So he joined the Navy, he only worked as a low-level information systems technician, but he ends up fabricating his resume. Furthermore, in an email, March 19, 2026, intelligence analyst in the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, Counterintelligence Analysis Branch wrote, Rush does not have an FAA certificate or pilot's licenses, no records for the individual in FAAC systems. So he had been claiming that he was a pilot. He had these pilot licenses. At one time, he claimed he had a pilot license from the Navy, right? Another time, he claimed he had a pilot's license from the Air Force. So Matthew Johnson, the special agent at the FBI who filed the affidavit, criminal complaint in court, he says, based on my training and experience, I know that federal employees' salaries are determined by a number of factors, including the employee's education level. An employee with higher education levels, such as master's degree, would generally be expected to receive a higher pay scale than a similar employee doing similar work without an undergraduate or master's degree. And I did a video earlier stating how the Navy's human resources downgraded, understated, and misrepresented my credentials. They didn't include that I had a Doctor of Law degree from George Washington University, even though when I went through the OPM process, when I accepted the offer, all my credentials were there, my vetting, I provided that. But the Navy Human Resources intentionally downgraded my credentials and said my highest level of education was master's, even though they had my transcripts, they had everything. So they falsified my credentials because I was black and because I'm Nigerian. They didn't want to view me as an American. I'm an American citizen, but they just wanted to give me a lower level. They were trying to say, well, I got my foot in the door. That's what happens for black people, minorities, new immigrants, people of African descent. But this is a white guy who's fabricated. He had no degrees, or he invented his fictitious resume, but he gets in not only into the CIA, but he makes it all the way to being a member of the Senior Executive Service. He's on the President Trump's Intelligence Advisory Board. He became the Pentagon's liaison. He's inducted into a nuclear submarine program, top secret. All of this, he's inventing fake spy programs, right? So it's mind-boggling. But so that's he also, of course, engaged in time card fraud, and this is what the special agent says in the affidavit. As noted, DPRIS records and NCIS have confirmed that Rush was honorably discharged on February 1, 2015 as an 03 lieutenant. The investigation has revealed that Rush, through at least on or about September 2025, represented to the USG, that's the United States government, that he was in the US Navy Reserves at the rank of 06, a captain. He was claiming to be a captain, and he was collecting specifically records from the USG indicate that since being honorably discharged on February 2015, Rush had claimed 744 hours of military leave on his official timesheet, representing approximately $77,000 in compensation. He most recently claimed military leave in or about September 2025, right? So that's it. I just wanted to provide an inventory of CIA senior executive, former CIA senior executive, con artist David Rush's fabricated resume. My name is Olurotimi Osha, and I will keep you posted. Thank you.